Hello and welcome to A Lot of Help. That's with two T's. With James Lott Jr. And guess who I am? I'm James Lott Jr. I'm the JLJ of JLJ Media, host and a life coach in 5 areas, professional organizer, I'm just media person altogether, and just a human. And I love when people are doing stuff for other people. You guys know that, of course, already, but for me. But we have someone who does things on a large scale and a small scale. And she's sharing tips on how yes, you at home or at work or wherever you are, who are listening or watching, can also do some great stuff. We have to change the world. We're all in this together. We're all swimming upstream together, folks. I believe that completely. You guys know that about me. Okay, so let me read her. Let me read her bio. I'm trying to decide which bio I want to read. They're kind of because one has some fun. Maybe the one that has some fun stuff at the end. All right, my guest is the Global Humanitarian Director for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yes. Since 1985, the organization has donated billions of dollars in assistance and millions of volunteer hours in 191 countries, people. She often speaks in global settings, okay? This is the large thing we're talking about. That includes the G20 Interfaith Forum, uh, Chatham House, should I say correctly, and United Nations conferences on sustainable development. I like that. Some of the topics include early nutrition literacy. Both are very important, as the foundation of all other humanitarian interventions. But also, she also has some hobbies that I think are really good because one I could really enjoy, I can't have anymore, and that's homemade pie recipes. I can't do pie anymore, really. She likes Wordle and anything related to NASA's James Webb Telescope. I like that. I love that. Something different. I had a telescope when I was a kid. Help me welcome the author of the book, Doing Small Things with Great Love, How Everyday Humanitarians Are Changing the World, Miss Sharon Eubank.
Thank you so much, James. I'm so happy to be with you. This is a fun program, and I'm glad to come.
I'm very happy that you're here too. Thank you. And I really want to start because in your book, which first of all, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Writing books, everybody just can't wake up and you got to put it together. You got to make sure you're saying something. You got to make sure it flows, the whole thing. So you gave birth to this. So first question is, how do you feel?
I never thought I was going to write a book, and I never wanted to. But sometimes, working in the humanitarian setting, I see us make mistakes over and over again out of good intentions. And I thought, what if we could just tell some stories to people ahead of time so that they would know a couple important things? And so the book is it's 12 principles that it took me 28 years to learn. And if people could start where I'm leaving off, it would be great. So that's really what it is. And the main idea is that you don't need to go to Peru or the Philippines or someplace else. You are powerful where you live, and your community right where you live needs you.
Oh my
So
God.
that's
No. And folks, that's what her book is and does. And it's in alignment with what I've been saying for the last 20 years. I was taught, Ms. Sharon, I was taught by a friend of mine, older friend of mine, wherever you live, make sure you get involved. And I was like 20 years old. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm partying, having a good time. What are you talking about? And she's like, no, James, you can do all that, but make sure wherever you live, you get involved. And she also said to me, local politics, local anything, local food, local home, local everything is actually more important because it's right there where you are. Again, I had no idea, no clue what that meant at 20 years old. I have learned since then. I have learned that, and I've always been involved in my community. So I just want to say that. So I love that you said start local. And one of your chapters, I want to talk about this. It says you are the most powerful where you live. So let's discuss that a little bit because I think people always think it's large thing. I gotta go big, but I can't go big. It's too much. But you really talk about stuff in this book about how you really break it down. But let's talk about that. You are most powerful where you live. Where'd you come up with that?
I myself had an experience that really taught me this. So, I was out in a place called Sri Lanka that's off the coast of India because a huge tsunami had gone through there in 2004. and 300,000 people died, and it was just so devastating. But as I was there trying to help, I was with a local guy who was being my translator. And as we came to this place, a train had been hit by the wave and 1,500 people died. And so all these families are camped around the train because it's the last place they were with their kids. And, they feel so much need, and they're touching my arm, and they're saying, I lost my husband, I lost my baby. And I was paralyzed. I couldn't do anything to them. I was working on houses, but that was 2 miles away. I mean, who cares? They don't care about that.
Right.
But Shanta, who's driving with me, he goes out to our van and he gets a little soccer ball and he pumps it up and he starts kicking it around the dirt with the kids. And they're showing him their tricks and he's showing him some tricks, and they start to relax and have a good time. And then, one of the women comes out and she says, hey, that yeast you brought me, look, I'm baking bread. And she gives him a piece of bread. And then another lady said, I need washing powder and I can't find any. Can you help me? And he said, I'm going to help you. And as I stood there and I watched that whole thing, I realized Shanta is way more powerful in this situation than I am. Not because I belong to a big organization that I have a lot of, budget, because he speaks the language, because he understands the culture, and because he's there every day. Because I'm going to go back to the place where I live, and Shanta's there all the time. So, that's a story about far away, but I contrast that with a story I read in the newspaper. It's in Hampton, Virginia. It's a Title I school called Tarrant, Elementary. And the principal said, all right, before school starts, it's just, this time of year. She said, we're going to all get in a bus, all of us teachers, and we're going to go out to the neighborhood where we serve, and we're going to go visit our students' homes. And we're going to say, hey, I'm your teacher. Can't wait for you to come. Love to meet your mother, your grandmother, your father. And so the teachers are like, okay. So they go out and there they are eating hot dogs in the little, convenience store. And they're watching kids play soccer in the backyard. And that little thing, and it took them 4 hours, it made an enormous difference because they knew the people. Hey, this is our neighborhood. We care about the kids. We care about the school. And I think anybody, no matter what you do for your living, you can connect better with the people in your community and your services better. And I appreciate that about your podcast. You're trying to find people in the community and talk about what they do and make a connection. And I think more than anything else, we are powerful because we can make a local connection. And I'd love to see more of that.
I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, when you see devastation like that, I just, on a side note, I just don't know how you keep it together, because it's just, I'm a former nurse, so I've seen some stuff in the hospitals and things like that, and you get trained how to, in front of them, keep it together, and you may fall apart on the side of the corner, but I don't know. You're talking about stuff that I have never experienced, so I couldn't even imagine. So, bless you for going through that and making it through. I can only say my quick story would be the LA fires we just had in January. I know a family of 13 people had lost their homes. They had moved there as a community years ago. They all bought houses. They're all cousins, and they all lost their homes. So what I did, and it wasn't even like I was like, I wanted to help them. So I mean, somebody came to my house, they showered and that, but I was like, they were displaced. So I had said, for me, because I live here, my friends who were somewhere else were saying, James, what can we do? And of course there was service. And I go, you know what I'm doing? I am collecting money to buy gift cards. So gas cards, food cards, delivery, like all these things, cards to like Ross. Like things I was thinking, they're gonna need gas. They got their cars, they're gonna need gas. They're gonna need clothes. They lost all their clothes. They're gonna need. So I was collecting that. People were giving me. People were just giving to me. But they're like, because you're there, I know who directly needs it. So that's what I did. I cried every day. I was always crying every day. So I don't know how you got it. I cried every day. But that was what I did for that next month and a half.
Yeah, thank you for just saying I'm thinking about what people need and I'm going to get involved. Rather than when a big thing happens, especially like a disaster, it's easy to say, I don't know what to do. And so we don't do anything. And people are always looking for ideas. And I hope that the book generates ideas. I listed 50 things in the back that, if you don't know how to start, try one of these 50 things.
That's yes. And that's what I'm saying, because this is so great. You're actually naming stuff and telling people how, because it's people hear, I should get involved. Okay, I should volunteer. You hear that phrase, you hear those words, but nowhere talks about, well, actually, how just go down there and do this. Just find it. No one, I mean, the logistics of it, or even what if you're a shy person? What if you're a person who's introverted, right? Clearly I'm not. So I have a problem with that. But I mean, there are people who are, or people who just are, get paralyzed. A disaster, something happens, they go, I don't know where to go, what to do. That's why your book is so good. With this, because you tell stories, plus you're also giving stuff. One of the things is asking the right questions. Talk about that, please.
I think it's so easy for us to see something in our neighborhood or we see something on the news and we think in our minds, ooh, I know what they need. I'm going to assume that they need blankets or they need clothing or they need, something. We make this assumption without ever asking them, what is it you really need?
Yes.
And that's so much of the mistakes made. And these are terrible stories that I tell in the book. I hated writing this fiction. I just hated it. But I want people to know. So I recounted the story about the Sandy Hook tragedy that happened in Newtown, Connecticut. And as people saw that around the country, they were just emotionally moved. It was so tragic. And what happened is in this little town of 27,000 people, people started sending things that they thought that they wanted. And they got 65,000 teddy bears. 65,000 in a town of 27,000 people. And 1,000 of those bears were life size. So the town, it's a little town, they rented a big warehouse and they started stacking up the stuff that people sent them. It's 80,000 square feet and it's stacked 8 feet high. And they're trying to process, their emotions of what has happened, but every day they're getting all these deliveries of things. And they had to ask post office workers from other towns to come in and help them manage some of these things. So although it was the right thing, it was an empathetic thing that people did, we didn't take that first step, which is what you talked about. Well, ask the question, what's going on? What do you need? If I'm going to send you something, what is it you really want? And when it gets there, who should receive it? And by the way, what time do you want it to come? Do you want it to come right now? Do you need it in a month? Do you need it 6 months from now? And those are critical questions to be able to ask. And sometimes we don't go that deep. We feel the empathy, but we don't ask those questions. And so in the end, we do something that's burdensome rather than helpful, even though we didn't mean to.
Oh my God, it's just stuff we never talk about. That's so all true and smart. Yes, because when the opening your thing was my solution to your problem will always be wrong. That's because I'm very much, because I've been in a flood, I've been in a fire, I've done both. And I've lost things. So I tell you at home, think personally, what did you need? Now ask yourself the question, what did you need? Instead of saying, I'm buying some blenders for people. I mean, like, yeah, sure, they can use a blender at some point, but if they have to plug it in. My thing, like I said, just to go off my example, is like in LA, we're all car conscious. So I'm thinking they may have to drive somewhere to a hotel, they may have to drive somewhere, I like to get food because they have no place to live. That's a lot of gas expensive around here. I said gas cards. That's the first thing I thought of. That's what I would need if I need somebody, just because I'm trying to figure out my money situation, what's going on. It'd be nice not to, and also I think part of the helping process, and you can tell me if this is true on your end, aren't we trying to alleviate any extra added stress through their tough time, right?
That's really true. And asking those questions about, when I was in a flood, I needed gas cards. That's what was important to me. Do you need gas cards or do you need something else? And let them reply back to you and tell you, what's so important and what you can help with. And it's so easy to ask people what you need,
Right.
but it's very easy for us to just, go past that step because we get so much energy. We're so excited.
Now, also something you talk about that I had to learn this recently. I had a roof collapse in February. My roof collapsed. So I had water just coming in. It was like, it rains once a year in LA, and that's when it happened, during the rain. What I've had to learn, and in your book you put, you're asking the person, what are you able to do yourselves? For me, on the other end of being the person who was going through, I don't say victim, just I was going through stuff, I had to learn that I actually also meet people where they are. Not everybody handles tragedies or problems the same way, right? Some people were good at, I will pray for you. I'll always say prayers, and prayers are always accepted in this house. I will never turn one away, girl. I'll never be like, keep the prayer. I'm fine. No, I'll take prayers. That comes in. Then you have folks who are like, I will send you food to your house, or I know somebody who works at a hotel. So I had to learn myself as a person, as a recipient. But I want you to talk about as the person who wants to do help. Talk about that a little bit about you're trying to say you got to figure out, what can you do? What are you able to do?
There's a story that I learned about in West Virginia. There was a women's shelter, and the church congregation around there at Christmas, they said, well, we should do something over there. So they gathered a bunch of presents and they made stockings for the kids, and they went over there on Christmas Eve and they gave all of those presents to the kids. And they loved it. The church loved it because it felt so emotionally satisfying. The kids were wildly happy. And the next year they come along and they go, we want to do that again. That was so fun. And one of the women leaders said, I didn't like that project. And they're like, how can you not like that project? It was so great. She said, I saw the faces of the moms standing in the back of the gym while their kids were unwrapping all those presents. And we made them feel like failures because they couldn't give, Christmas. They had to rely on the church to come in and they couldn't do it. She said, if we do this again, I want to do it so that those women get to go to some little store that we've stocked, pick out their own presents, wrap those presents, because that's what they can do. And if they work around the shelter and get little tickets and they can go buy stuff out of that store, whatever, but let's make them be successful. And that was the first time I realized everybody has something that they can do, and we should honor the things that they can do and not take that away from them. That was a really important lesson for me.
Yeah, I never even thought of it before until you reframed it. When you reframed it, I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense. It's like because they're feeling like because every parent wants to get their kids stuff for Christmas. Of course, that's a basic thing we want to do. We want to provide for Christmas, and when you can't do that, that's a great way of reframing it. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Because what I'm trying to get people to realize as they listen or watch this, whichever way you're doing this, that everything is possible, and you could be somebody who maybe doesn't have a car, but you can still give. I mean, like we have public transportation, but or you feel like you have a lot of money. Maybe you don't have to give money. Maybe you give time. You have time, right? That's the whole point. It's kind of like you have to ask yourself those questions. What realistically can you do? But aren't you also saying, because it's small things, that whatever you can do still works?
Yeah, I'm a believer everybody has something to give. And if I'm the giver and you're the receiver, you're also a giver and I'm a receiver. We're going to do an exchange because James Lott has something I need and Sharon Eubank has something you need, and we're going to exchange. So that doesn't mean that, you're the victim and I'm the provider. I don't believe in victims. I believe every time we connect and we do something, I get something out of it, you get something out of it, makes us stronger.
I
And
agree.
we often think it has to be money, but our presence, our time, our prayers, I try to talk about those in the book. We all have things. And for the uptight Norwegian background that Sharon Eubank is, my friends that can bring the fun, bring the food, bring the humor, boy, I count on that. I need that.
You're talking to somebody who comes from several backgrounds: Creole background, Southern backgrounds. I love food. Don't get me started on that one. I always accept. Okay, I should amend my earlier statement. Prayers and food are always accepted at my house.
There you go.
I will not turn away any of those. Neither of those. I will not turn those away. That's very true. And you're right. I mean, because in some cultures, it's the food that the love's in the food and bringing it over to make sure you're nourished while you're going through something. It's the I'll wash your clothes for you. I mean, I'm with you. I want people to know that I had to learn this myself, that not everybody can just jump in and that's it. It is, again, what can you do? You can do that. Okay, that still works. That's still giving. Because we want to encourage people. We don't want to discourage people from not doing anything. Right? That's the point.
And there's some things that are fun all the time. Food is one of them. Food it works across any culture. We're going to share food and we're going to bless each other in that way. Like you said, it's as important as prayer. I think sports is another thing that's like that. I think music is something to share. Those things we have a lot in common. And so those are the easy platforms that we can help each other.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And let me get to I have my dog ears. Get in there. Okay. Now you also talk about volunteerism, the social movements.
Mm.
So there's just that title alone elicits a lot of different responses, I'm sure, and this thing. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what do you mean in the context of this book and stuff? What do you mean by that?
The head of Rotary International, and Rotary is an interesting organization because it started in Chicago by four business guys. They belonged to different faiths and they had different professions, but they wanted to understand each other better. So they would rotate, that's how they got the name Rotary, to each other's offices. And they just had a little discussion and then they added service to it. And that's how International Rotary started. But the head of International Rotary, their CEO is a man named John Huco. And he was speaking in Australia and he said, we should wage peace as aggressively as nations wage war. And I just really
Oh,
caught
I
that.
like that. I
And
like that.
he's talking about service is the way that we become peacemakers and that we wage peace. And if we're going to do that as aggressively as nations wage war, it can't just be something I just think about every once in a while. We need an organized campaign. So John Huco sits on the advisory council for a thing called Just Serve. It's a tool. It's free. Anybody can use it. You open up justserve.org and you go into that app or that website, you type in your zip code and all the service opportunities in your zip code come up. So you can look at that and say, I'll do that. I'll go over there. And it's a way for us to post what we need and respond to what we need as a community. And I just think it's terrific. And that campaign to say, I'm going to wage peace. I'm going to put my sweat into it or my time into it. I'm going to do something. And here's a little tool that helps.
That's a great, yeah, folks. That's a good one too. That's great. I love that.
I heard your program. You were talking to Mia Nyman about ways to contribute. You were talking about old and young, and you just got to start. And I was thinking when I listened to that, Just Serve is a good way of just starting. If you don't know what to do, start scrolling through your zip code and see what there is, and it'll give you an idea.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. I mean, nowadays, I don't want because I want because so okay. I'm going to try to say this because as a person who's a senior myself, I'm close to 60. Um, it's the misconception is we're not online. We're online. Almost every senior I know has a tablet or a phone, a smartphone now.
Oh, sure.
Most, right? Um, so we can. I always say, ask the kids and grandkids. My grandkids are like, Papa Jamie needs help. I hand the phone over. Can you do this for me? And they do it for you. They can get you. They can help you get on there, right? I mean, I use them all the time. I love my grandchildren. I use it all the time. They're extensions of my brain, the common brain. But I'm saying that on my programs here, we have taught JLJ Media has been one of the places that has taught older people how to go online, go on YouTube, learn how to go on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, and watch my programs. I mean, seriously, we over the last 10 years, we have helped a whole generation come online that told me we were never online before. We never know how to do this. It's not hard, right, Sharon? It's not hard. It's just finding the right person. As you talk about network too in this book, getting your network together. But your network just could be a grandchild or a nephew or just a younger person in your life. If you claiming it, but I want people to know at home, most of us have a tablet or a phone or a laptop. We're not like we're so out of it. But you're letting people know there are things on the interwebs that you can't find.
And I think we're in a really important place in our country right now politically. We're kind of getting polarized. You know, people say you don't worship like I do, you don't vote like I do, you don't look like I do, and somehow I can't have anything to do with you. And that's just a fallacy. But we need a mechanism for us to do things with each other. And the networks that you promote, the networks that are around service, that's a even playing field. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how you vote. I don't care how you worship. But we care about our community and we're going to do something like that. We need more of that. And anything we can think of as an individuals to bring our community better together is worth it.
Oh yeah, you just said my channel, my motto is that. So I just for me, I always say all of us want the same 4 or 5 things, no matter who we are. We're the same 4 or 5 things, and including a life that's livable. So, and we all live here together. I don't know what my neighbor does next door. I'm in LA. I live with 4 million people. I don't know what they do, but when something goes down, we do help each other. He's helped me out. I've helped him out. It's just that to me, it's like that's just we need to get back to that on some level. And I think yes, we have our differences. Everybody's had their things. I get it. And I understand, but Like you see, it's about worshiping. Yes, you got these Christians saying you can't do these. We have to let that all go and just say, okay, how can we make our communities just better? Better streets, better this, better that, better schools. But why aren't we just focusing on stuff like that? And when it comes to people in need, because there's people in need everywhere, everywhere. Everywhere you turn is somebody in need. Why can't we come together for that?
You were talking about the fires in LA, and we're talking about the flood that you lived through. And I think we get galvanized by a physical thing that we can see that happens in the neighborhood. But I think it's important to realize too, you're going to walk by somebody on the street who's had a fire go through them internally, and they're just ashes right now. And they need somebody, even though it doesn't show visibly, to reach out and say, what do you need? How can I help you? And that kind of connection, they'll never forget you. And, if it's a death of somebody, if you're going through cancer in your family, if there's emotional struggles, if there's addictions, we can reach out to each other on those kinds of disasters just as well. But you got to do it individual to individual.
So I'm going to just a quick little thing because I'm going to piggyback off of that right now. One of my guests years ago, this is like maybe 10 years ago on my shows, said his view on the homeless changed one day. Here in LA, we're driving in our traffic-filled streets, and he said it was like peak rush hour time, like 5 in the afternoon on a Friday. Everybody's trying to get out of the other jobs in downtown LA, and he was waiting at a light. All of a sudden, the light turned green, but a homeless person decided to walk slowly across the streets. And everybody was honking and cussing and all this they were doing. But he said in that moment, it could totally change my life when he said this. He said that moment he realized that person's supposed to be seen. That's why it's in a weird way, even whether he recognizes it or not, that homeless person recognizes it or not, he's saying, I'm still here. Because we walk by them all the time. And I was like, that changed my whole world on just the homeless. We don't know their story, but they're right in our backyard. And we're rushing to go to our home. Not saying anything wrong with having a house and being taken together, but in a way, it's like I'm rushing to get home to do what? Eat the food on my table that person doesn't have, and live in a bed that person doesn't. Like, it changed his whole outlook. And I think if more folks did that, we'd be more in common than working together than we think. I love that story. It changed my life ever since I heard that story.
So I'm going to build on that and just reveal myself. I work in a high-rise building downtown Salt Lake City. And every time I walk in, but there's panhandlers, that stand around our building. And one of them, she scares me to death because she gets right in my face and she says, help me, help me, help me. And, I'm admitting to you, I go around the other side of the building to go in because I don't want to meet her.
Yeah.
But I'm walking with one of my friends into the building, and she hits us right in the crosswalk. And my friend, her name is Elizabeth, she said, Marilyn, I haven't seen you in so long. I'm so happy to see you. And all of a sudden, because I'm up close to her face changes. She looks up and they start having this discussion. She said, how are you doing today? And she said, I saw my kids walking to school today. I was, so happy. And suddenly she's interacting as a mother instead of a panhandler. And I say to my friend, how do you know her? And she said, I met her in the street, just like you. But she talks about how she brought her family downtown. They were there for some Christmas event, that she introduced them to Marilyn. And Marilyn says to them, hold on, I have a Christmas present for you. And she goes back to where she keeps her stuff, and she brings a little styrofoam container out, and it's a piece of red velvet cake that she had saved for this family and that she wanted to give them as a Christmas present, because she was giving, she was the giver, not the receiver. And I, all this time, have been avoiding Marilyn because I don't want to, be accosted. And then I just said, there's a parable in the New Testament about people like me who walk by.
Right. No, that's right. Exactly. Right. Yes.
And I learned something, and you learned it too. They want to be seen. They want to be recognized. They want to be humanized. I know your name. I see you. And I think if we can just do that with people that we meet, there's a lot of dignity just built into something like that.
You mentioned dignity in your book too. I'll pick back off that for a second. And okay, so I have a doctorate in divinity, so I know. But we are human. Sometimes we almost forget or just set aside the things we've learned in the Bible, right? This is like you just learn things. So there is a homeless guy. I live next to an alley, and he walks up and down all the time. His name is Jeffrey. And so it turns out, after a year of me giving him my cans and stuff, My brother and I live in the same house. He's in the front half, I'm in the back half. We do talk. I mean, like we do it. But one day he goes, "There's this guy named Jeffrey. I'm like, me too." And we did not know we were each doing it. We had different schedules. And he goes, "I haven't seen him in a while." I go, "I haven't seen him in a while." We both got worried. And so like we just, but we saw him recently. He's still out. He's still out there. He's like, "Hey," and he's told. I mean, at first you look at him, he's a little scary looking. You're like, "Oh my god." But then but he's really sweet. It's like I talked to him. They're like, "How you doing? What's going on?" And it's like, "Yeah, it's a little tough out here, whatever." But I give a few bucks every once in a while. But it was my brother and I were doing it at the same time. Didn't know we were doing it, but because he was humanized, because I learned my lesson from that person. From that my guest. I was like, okay. One day he was walking by. I had some cans. How that's not. He was give him something for that night or that day. I give it to him. So it's kind of yeah. So I love story. I love stories like that. It's just that we're human. We get a little scared sometimes. They are a little scary sometimes. And you just don't know. But we always forget that we're supposed to give back. We're supposed to see people as human. We're supposed to humanize people and try to do what we can. Right. That's what the whole point of us being here. I think. Right.
Just the fact that you know Jeffrey's name and that you can greet him by his name. A lot of people who are unhoused, nobody says their name out loud, and I think that's a gift.
I know they don't. They don't at all. And so I believe that. But I believe in dignity. So I'm always a big fan of that. When my stepfather was sick, I was like, he was a Marine. No, he was Navy. He was a Navy man and a cop. And when he became incapacitated, my brother and I were like, no, we're going to give him his dignity. Even though he's incapacitated, hello, sir. We still did all that stuff until he passed. And I'm like, I just believe in that completely. Call me old fashioned, folks. I come where you say Miss So and Miss Sharon, you say Mr. So. I come from that. I come from that. I can talk to you forever. Okay, so one of the things you talk about too, because in the book you give like I say you literally give the basics. I say you're giving stories, you're giving examples. You ask questions at the end of some of these chapters. People to ask themselves some questions. But I do want this. I kind of want to go on this end as the end of the conversation. Kind of trusted networks.
Mm.
Because that can be tough. Who do you trust? Who can be trusted? Like literally trusted. Who are you giving your time and money to? Who are you connecting with? Are they good to connect with? Are they not? Are they because some places are not always you can vet all your nonprofits, you can vet everything. Maybe you're not the right fit for certain things. How do you understand that? So I just kind of want to let's talk about trusted networks.
Thanks for asking me about trusted networks. To me, this is one of the most important things that's going on in our society because, I mean, I bring this up in the book. We've spent $2 trillion in the last 50 years trying to develop different parts of Africa. And the only place that it works is when there's a network on the ground of people who trust each other that won't allow corruption, to get into that. Because otherwise, the money just siphons off, and it's our biggest fear when we donate. It's our biggest fear, in different things that corruption ruins it. That the people it was meant for, it never gets to those people. And the only way to protect against that is to have a group of people who are jointly holding each other responsible for the outcome of whatever the money's supposed to do. And that can be a big group. I mean, ideally, it would be a government, but it oftentimes isn't the government. Most of the time, it's people locally on the ground. It's your HOA. It's your PTSA, it's your church group, it's your book club, it's your running group. It's people like that say, okay, we're going to do something and we trust each other. I trust James Lott. James Lott trusts me, and I'm going to hold you accountable. When you put money through a network, a trusted network like that, it almost always does what it's supposed to do. So instead of worrying about the fundraising, we ought to be worried about how to build up those trusted networks and how to get the ones that are good more resource so that they can prove themselves.
Yes, I agree with that. So piggyback off the fire situation, I printed out every time someone gave me a Cash App or Venmo, I had to print it out, let them know I had it. I showed them the gift cards I bought. Like I was very transparent about everything. And I said you receipts for your taxes and all that stuff. So I did all of that. Because I said I really want people because again, I mean it's just they didn't ask that from me. They trusted me because they know me, none of them know me. But I just felt like no, I want to make sure this is legit, this is real. And also you see something tangible for yourself, just emotionally, that this money you just gave me bought this to help somebody else. But I wanted people to trust me. I don't want because to me, I teach my oldest grandson. We have a little money arrangement, and so he has to pay me back this money every month, and he does. And when it's times when there's an issue, I'm like, you have to call me and talk to me about it. We work it out. So recently something came up and I was like, because the last 3 years you've been so good, your credit's good with me. I always say your credit's good with me. So I'll let you out this slide because you called me. You did what I asked. You're talking to me. We're fine. He's like, oh, okay. I said, but that's kind of the point. When you build trust with people, great things can be accomplished and slid or hit. It can be worked out when people can trust you.
See, you gave evidence of your transparency with the receipts and those things. So you allowed people, they trust you anyway, but you gave them evidence of that trustworthiness. And I think you brought up a good point with your grandson. When there's a we don't agree, the whole trusted network has different opinions, that's okay. We should be able to work through some of those things through communication because we don't want everybody to agree. We want to bring out those different opinions because it makes the whole group stronger. Some people see things, you see something different than your grandson, or he sees something different than you, but you trust each other to work it out.
I'm so glad you said that because I just did a whole lecture at a company about that, saying how the differences as a sports team. I played sports. We just said that earlier. I played sports. And I said, how sports taught me how to be an entrepreneur and how to build a team. Because in sports, you're all different from different households, different upbringings, different everything. You come together to play this sport you love to win, hopefully. But you have to work as a team to get there. Sports like football, basketball, baseball, you can't work alone. You have to be those kind of sports, you have to work together. So I said, when it comes to my volunteerism, entrepreneurism, all that, I have teams where they see something that I may have never thought of before. And that helps my company. That helps the team. It's like we're all cookie cutter clones. I don't know how much further we would get because we may get far on some level, but I need somebody else who says, James, you ever thought of this? No, I never thought of it before. And I'm like, I want to try that. There's some of my shows that came to me here where somebody else said I had this idea. And I was like, okay, if I was closed off, or if he was the same person I was, or she was the same person I was, then it wouldn't be. The ideas were so different. Oh, I want to try. Let's try that. I trust you. Let's try that. Bringing those two things together.
You remind me of a story I know that that there were a lot of migrants coming from Africa and they were showing up in Italy and then they apply for asylum, but then they have to wait for that to be judged upon. So they can't work, they can't do anything, they're just sitting around and they're causing a lot of trouble. They're fighting with each other, they come from different places, different tribes, and there's just a lot of conflict. So the Archbishop of Florence said, look, we're gonna invite these asylum seekers to be part of our football tournament. And they're like, no, that's not a good idea. They fight so much. And he said, no, we're going to do it. So they got uniforms and they didn't allow people from the same countries to be on the same teams. So they had to be with people that they didn't know. And they're all upset about that. But then they start noticing each other's skills and, hey, you're pretty good. And through that little football league, and they interacted with the other Italian teams, instead of being migrants, they were a football team. And they learned how to play those skills together, and it bonded them, not only themselves, but also with the community. That was so powerful. Just being able to say, we have to cooperate, and we're going to do it because we like playing football. It's soccer. It's fun. And there was a way to do that. And so you've experienced that, and I think we ought to do more of that. Find activities where you have to cooperate to make it work out.
Yes, I agree. I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Okay.
Not too personal, but it's a personal question. With all this, all of your humanitarianism, all the things you've spoken in big rooms, small rooms, and all that, how has it? No, that's not it. In what ways has it enriched your life?
When it works, it's the best feeling in the world. It's better than a drug. I mean, you'll go back to that over and over again when it works. It's just so powerful to see people, change, to see communities bond, come together, see something great come out of a tragedy. When it doesn't work, it's the saddest part in the world. And a lot of my personal inner life is kind of thinking, when things haven't worked out, when I haven't been able to help the way I wanted because, unforeseen things, stuff happens. What do I do with that? And in some ways, it's enriched me even more than the success because I'm a woman of faith. I work for a Christian church, and I've had to go to God and just say, I can't solve this. I'm going to trust you. That scripture in James that the fervent prayer of a righteous person avails much. I got to trust in that because I can't do anything about this. And I felt a divine assurance. You know what? You did what you can. I'll get the rest. And I have to trust in God in those ways. And so in those two ways, the successes enrich me, but the failures also have enriched me in a way that has built my faith.
Well, as we always say, there really is no failure. Everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, right? And there's a lesson still in everything.
Yeah.
And also, in tragedy, beauty can be born, right? Folks, I could talk to Sharon all day long. The book is called Doing Small Things with Great Love. When this comes out, it depends on when you watch this. The book is out or it's coming out. But it's this month. It's in September. It's coming out September 15th, right? I think it's the 15th.
16th. The book's out on September 16th.
Yeah, so it depends. Like this show will be evergreen. It'll be out there. So it's called Doing this book right here. If you're watching, here's the book cover. It's a beautiful book cover. Doing the Small Things with Great Love. How everyday humanitarian is changing the world. You don't have to run. You can just go on your phone. Or go where a books are. You want to go to a bookstore? Go to a bookstore.
Hold that book in your hand. Enjoy the physical
book in your hand. I like books. I like physical media. I do. I just said that earlier. But it's a great book, and I think we both are just encouraging you. Read the book, see how you feel about it. And if you haven't helped in a while, or you've never done it before, consider doing something for something nearby, and you can start small. And seriously, and she actually said it's a natural high when someone thanks you for something you've done. And you're right. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like it. Sharon Eubank, where can they find you if they want to talk to you or see you or anything? Where can they find you?
I really wrote this book not as the be-all answer, but just sort of to start a conversation because I'm really interested in what people are doing, their experiences too. So if you want to join that conversation, you can find me at Sharon Eubank _ on Instagram, or you can also use the hashtag Small Things Great Love. But I'd love to hear more stories about what's important to you and how you're using it.
Yes, and I'm following her, of course, but I will put that underneath the in the description, of course. And me, a lot of help.com. Remember, it's 2 T's, not 1, 2. If people's like, I spelled it, I can get you. I'm not a parking lot. I am a lot. That's why the extra T. That's why I tell people Sharon all the time. But it's a lot of help.com, where I have a blog I put out every day. And it's all stuff that's positive and talking about life and real. I've been really enjoying the last year or so of just expressing things I've learned and putting it out there for people to digest and ingest. And thank you, folks who are reading the blog. Thank you. Also, I'm a certified life coach in several areas, and also have over 90 shows on this channel. And a lot of help is all about helping and doing what we can. I will talk to you. I'm here on every Tuesday. Tuesdays, we are here with new episodes. I'll be back next week. Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.